the skinks presented a problem. Their addition to the group meant that the players were going to be able to short-circuit a lot of wilderness travel between towns. One of the themes I was interested in exploring was how traveling through the territories was dangerous but also filled with a lot of natural beauty. My solution to the problem was a technique I've been developing for a while called painting the scene. The idea is I pose questions to the players in order to get them to flesh out the details of visual or thematic elements I'm interested in exploring. In this case, my painting the scene question allowed the players to experience a little bit of the beauty and danger the patrol was getting to bypass because of the skinks, even if their characters didn't. Enjoy.
Let's talk about the journey between Appleloft, which is at that little crossroads there where I'm pulsing, and Elmoss, which is the next major city along the trail. Because you're on the skinks, I've decided that there's only going to be one more wilderness roll between like for the rest of the series to Spruce Tech. And so what I'd like to do just for the journey between Appleloft and Elmoss is pose a question to each of you. You can choose to answer it in one of two ways, but essentially the question is, tell me about something beautiful along the way that you would have liked to have stopped to enjoy, but you can't because you're making haste. There's a lot of haste on your mission, and also you're on these fucking lizards. And so, there's just no time. It's just a beautiful thing that you pass by, and boy, what a bummer. Or tell me about a danger that is avoided along the path. You guys can take a minute to think about that. Once you have your idea of either something beautiful or something dangerous, just chime in and let us know.
What time of year is it?
Very early spring.
I think when we're zipping along the skinks, Kelsey's enjoying the parallax, as they're watching things go by and everything. And we get to a bridge that's collapsed from the frost heave of the winter. The water that's beneath it is still partially frozen and all of that jazz. And the skinks just zip over that like there's no problem at all. And that could have been hours that we were stuck there in the open.
Awesome. Barth, what do you think?
Maybe along the path we head over a hill, and as we're going down it, there's this whole bunch of bees that go past us, all the flowers blooming and stuff. And I think it's probably pretty cool because maybe since we don't come out this early, we don't see the
initial frenzy or whatever.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you. Thistle.
I'm picturing that the skinks sort of they move in spurts, probably like a lot of lizards do. So a lot of very fast, and then suddenly they stop and they breathe.
Right. Yeah. That makes it much more like entertaining journey.
Yeah. A little more difficult, a little more nauseous. And so I'm picturing that happening. And we stop in one place, and there's a snowy field, and it's got what are called snowdrops popping up, which for mice would be pretty big actually. And I want to say that Thistle thinks that they're really beautiful, and they've got medicinal properties. We could really go. And he's just saying we should stop here and go get this. And all the skinks go.
They just fly off. Nice. Fergus.
So I think basically, on the same day that we cross the icy river, we kind of top over this hill, and our breath is kind of steaming in the air, and we see the sun shining down into a field where the new grass is just starting to kind of pop up. And it looks so inviting, and you see these sunbeams, and that would be a good place just to take a nap or just to rest in the soft, new grass. And then we're gone.
Great. Thran, what do you think?
When we're crossing the icy river, the skinks are doing their dart and stop, and they stop in the middle of it, probably because it's cold. The ice starts to crack underneath our feet, and we're all trying to get them to move, and then all of a sudden all their heads twitch to one side as they perceive a cricket, and they all go darting off just that's great.
Thank God for that cricket. Awesome. Elmoss. It's a major city in the territories, and it produces some very specific goods that are used by the territories, particularly things that can be harvested off of these big mossy trees that the city is kind of built into. There's one big huge tree covered in moss and thick bark, and surrounded by mushrooms. And you enter the city through this like gate that's built into the base of this tree. And then you go down, and the city's actually underneath the tree, like it's underground in the root system. Okay. We've already mentioned that Thistle's father is Galen, the Bark Lord of Elmoss. He is essentially the head of the guild that harvests the moss from the trees and sells it. The moss is used for medicinal purposes. It's used for things like stuffings and things like that, right? As you approach Elmoss on your skinks, you see something that you've never seen before, Thistle. There's like a camp set up just outside the central tree that makes up Elmoss. There are like little tents. There are mice going hither and thither. It's very unusual. Like, it begs the question, why aren't they in Elmoss? Like, what are all these mice doing just outside of Elmoss? Not super safe, right? I mean, it's somewhat exposed. So as you guys approach, Thran, you're in charge. What do you do?
Fergus, let's go see what all these mice are about. The rest of you can continue towards the town.
So I think the two of us peel off and kind of go towards a cluster of the mice.
I think it's like obnoxious because like at that time that I called out, like all of our skinks had stopped, so we have to sit there awkwardly waiting for them to like, and then they all dart.
And then they go.
And I want to have Kelsey say, don't they outnumber us? Shouldn't we all go as a, and then your skink.
Those of you who are going to the town, it's not much further. And honestly, you guys will figure it out before Thran and Fergus do. At the base of the tree, there's like this entrance that goes down into the town, right? There's some steps and there's like an opening, right? A large snapping turtle has managed to wedge itself into the entrance of Elmoss, facing outwards. So like as you go up to it, you can see the turtle dozing or whatever, and that's pretty clearly the reason why no one's inside the city right now, because this turtle has wedged itself into the entrance. So with all that information, you guys can be back together at the camp. There's no need to go any further. You guys are greeted eventually, Thistle, by your father, Galen. He comes out. He's wearing like these like moss green vestments, which are the office, or which are the the sort of uniform of his office, right? All the moss harvesters wear these moss green vestments, but he has the moss green vestments with he has like a little pin, like a little gold pin that kind of indicates, his status as the Bark Lord of Elmoss. And he has like sort of like dark gray fur. And he comes out and he greets you all. He says, a patrol from Lockhaven. It's about time. Where we thought perhaps we might have to wait until later into the season when regular patrols began. But it's very good to see you here now. And then he hasn't noticed you yet, Thistle. Do you make yourself like super obvious or what?
No. Thistle wouldn't. I think Thistle would sort of not freeze, but he wouldn't necessarily draw attention to himself, sort of waiting to see how things play out, and probably a little intimidated because he's not really wanting to have this conversation with his father.
So Galen comes up to you, Thrawn, and says, and actually comes up to Fergus because Fergus is older. Hello, are you the leader of this patrol?
Thank you, good sir, for your greeting. I am not. Brave-looking mouse with the white cloak over there.
Brave indeed. Who would go about the forest with a white cloak?
His name is Thrawn, and we should discuss your situation.
Galen greets you. He shakes your paw, Thrawn. He doesn't seem like unfriendly. He says, that's a very interesting sartorial choice, Thrawn, to wear a white cloak out in the middle of the forest. It's almost as if your mentor at Lockhaven wanted to get you killed.
Well, if he had had his way, I suppose that would have happened. Must say now it is a badge of honor to wear it and maintain its pristine color.
Indeed. Well, I fear it may not stay pristine for much longer. I assume you will be helping us with our little problem.
Have you ever had something like this happen before?
We have not.
I can't say that I've ever heard tale of moving a snapping turtle. I'm not quite sure even where to begin.
And yet this is why we send regular taxes and other payments to Lockhaven so that we can depend upon the guard, so that the guard will help us in matters like this. Is it not?
Oh, well, certainly. We are going to help. Tell me, do you have any history of this turtle? Do you know where it comes from or how it ended up wedged here?
We have no knowledge of it, in truth. Several days ago, we went out to begin the first foraging, moss and seeds and other things that we collect here at Elmoss. And we came back and the turtle had wedged itself into the entrance. So we set up camp in the hopes that it would find a way to extract itself.
Does it seem interested in extracting itself, or is it trying to
It
get
does
further?
not. In truth, it sleeps for the better part of the day. It does not help that on occasion a cricket or other bug gets within snapping distance of the creature, and so really it has no incentive whatsoever to move.
I think when he says cricket, the skinks have like already started to learn a few words.
Yeah.
Like surge.
I think it would run.
They get really close all of a sudden, and I think we've learned like a spot that we can like press on them to make them just like like hold your horses.
Right.
Pressing on them. So calm down.
He says, yes. It would seem that our friend, the snapping turtle, is going to be here for some time. He seems quite comfortable. Our tree provides a fair amount of protection from predators, and these stupid insects just wander by, so he would eat them at his leisure. It is quite a situation and a predicament.
Let me confer with my troop.
And how many guard mice have you brought with you, sir, on this patrol?
5, including me. We are charged to make all haste.
1, 2, 3, 4. I count 4 of you. I count 4 among your number. Where's your 5th?
I'm assuming he can't see Thistle.
Right. I think Thistle's maybe something conspicuous.
So at this point, Thistle will come and get down off, try and gracefully dismount from one of the skinks, and says, "I'm the 5th, Father."
Oh.
And he throws his cloak over his shoulder, to flare it, to fix it, to emphasize the fact that he has one, and says, "And I think I have an idea how we can fix this, Father. This is a problem that I believe we can solve, especially with using teamwork."
Do you have like a given name, like a proper name that's not Thistle?
Gandalf.
No. Well, give me let's say it's something really pretentious like Beowulf. I don't know.
Well, his name is Galen, so maybe like yours is like
Balin.
Let's think Old English. Old English name.
Nigel,
that's perfect.
That's great.
He puts his paw on your shoulder and he says, "Nigel, I fear this may not be an operation suited to your particular competencies. You aren't." He looks at like Barth. Like, you don't have the same constitution as these other guard mice.
Why would you think I can't handle myself, Father? I've always handled myself fine in the woods alone. This is not. I've proven myself time and again. I have a cloak of the mouse guard.
That's maybe a good time to reveal your cloak color, actually.
I'd like to say, and I'm not sure if this is canon or not, I'd like to say he's got a dual color cloak.
That's
He's
fine.
got blood red on the outside, like a rich red on the outside, and the inside is actually a moss green. So the blood was symbolizing for him helping out after various battles where the fighting was all still going on, but he would go in and actually Thistle would do his healing, hauling out the injured or defending the injured, as the case may be, depending on what was happening. That's why his cloak is blood red. But on the other side, it's sort of homage to the moss, right? So it's a mossy green color. But it also has a practical nature in that he can flip his cloak around and it'll be sort of camouflage.
Got it. Okay, nice. It's very like innovative. That's good. So Galen says, "I need someone to go look at the most recent crop of moss we've come back with. I fear there's some sort of like fungus that's invaded it. It looks a little poorly. Why don't you go take a look at that? Let's see if we can save this particular harvest, okay? And let your friends deal with the snapping turtle."
Unfortunately, that might be an interesting thing to do after we've finished with whatever tasking that Thran has for us, Father.
I think we're going to go to the convince a mouse move here.
Do you realize that I'm in the mouse guard and you do not give direction to me?
He says, "And Nigel, you do realize that I am your father, Bark Lord of Elmoss, and I am not accustomed to being told what I can and cannot do, either by way of my station or by way of my familial connection to you." Go ahead and we'll convince them. That's the -2. It's wisdom and then -2.
Oh, yeah, actually, no, that's a 10.
On a 10 plus, you get to choose. You manage to convince them that they'll want something small in return. So yeah, you kind of just press your case or whatever. He's like, "That's fine. But at the very least, go back to the camp and say hi to your mother. Thrawn, I'm sure you won't mind if my son goes back and pays salutation to his dear mother who has not seen him in months."
Certainly, that would be no problem. And I kind of like glower a little bit. The rest of us will come up with a plan. And
and while Thistle's father's turned away, Thistle's tries, he's glowering and his whiskers are really active or whatever they do when they're agitated.
All right, well, so the plan. How are you guys gonna handle this turtle?
I think we should trust our instincts to learn something new and useful. 'Cause I don't think a lot of people know what's up about reversing turtles.
Well, I think one of the things we could do is we could make sure that the turtle gets hungry by using the spider, catch any bugs from coming in.
This poor spider.
Well, no, the spider just makes a web. That way crickets can't come in. It gets to eat all that. And then once the turtle's hungry, you can try and lure him out with food.
You guys may not have that kind of time, though. Trust your instincts is probably a good thing to do at the very outset, at least. So,
Yeah, okay.
Bart, you called for it. So, what do you? How are you kind of like approaching the situation?
Well, he's nature boy, so I think he like goes up to it and is evaluating like all the tracks and all that. He's like the Sherlock Holmes of nature, right? So it like deconstructs in his head to like make a plan.
Kelsey totally has a hold of your tail to keep you from getting too close to it.
I go into my memory palace.
Are we having like images of like all these different scenarios playing out in your head?
Yeah, and most of them are like ending with me like falling or the turtle like biting me or something.
I'm imagining this in like the old English 2-dimensional and sort of animated Monty Python style. Like we all like move up as one of us gets eaten and then we run away and stuff like that.
All right, give me that roll.
11.
11. All right, you're not angry, are you?
No.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
I'm all good.
Awesome. Okay, so let's see. On 10 plus, you learn something new and useful about your current situation, and you take +1 forward to acting on it. I'll tell you what you learn. This turtle was definitely placed here. There's no way the turtle could have backed himself up and wedged himself into the tree like this. It doesn't even make sense, like for him to walk backwards and wedge himself into a tree. It's just illogical. Like something would have had to like move him there and nudge him into place. Yeah.
Okay, so I do like the Sherlock Holmes thing where I'm like, notice this and this and this. There's the only logical conclusion is that the turtle was placed here. Like cue the ominous background music, right? Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun. Dude.
Do we think that it's not just placed but wedged in?
That was never a mystery. It's just that like it doesn't make any sense that the turtle would have wedged himself in, walked backwards and wedged himself in.
I mean wedged in like it would be unable to remove itself under its own power.
Yeah, I think that's probably true. Yeah.
Okay.
How big of a turtle are we talking here? Like, turtles can be huge.
Compared to like you guys, it's like a dragon, right? Like it's massive. Like one snap and you're done for, right? So
I'm thinking up the tree. What if we like scurry up the tree and then go down and then sort of like give it incentive from its behind to go forward?
Oh yes. I had an instructor would use the term light a fire under my ass. I think that's an interesting track we can take. I'll have to thank him when we get back.
What does Thrawn and Fergus and Thistle think about that?
No, Thistle's not there.
Oh yeah, Thistle gone. Yeah.
Do you guys make fun of him because his name's Nigel?
Not yet.
No. I do have a request, Thistle. At some point during this session, you do have to say smashing.
Yeah. So yeah, what do people think? Is that a viable plan to run up and go in?
I think it's smart to make use of the skinks that we have.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, because they can run up. I've totally forgot about that. I mean, I had that well in hand always.
Yeah, it's not a bad plan. I'm a little concerned about like aggravating it though. Like, as opposed to just like getting it out some other way.
If it gets mad and somebody is here on a skink, maybe we could make it chase somebody on a skink, and the skink is much faster than a turtle. I'm
The
sure.
turtles can't catch up to the skink.
Yeah, exactly. But it'll
Unless
be
the
annoying,
skink-
right? Like We can just keep running circles in front of it and stuff, and be like, "Oh, you can't get us." And
Unless the skink decides to stop at the wrong time.
yeah, if it gets cold, then we're out of luck.
Cold snap rolls in, the turtle just walks up and eats you.
Instead of capturing a bunch of the bugs, we could flush them out with the skinks. We could sort of corral them and drive this big knot of crickets and whatnot past the turtle. If we do it right, they'll be out of his reach, and then he'll want to chase them. That might give him the incentive to break himself free.
Along with a little fire
push from behind.
Yeah,
That seems like a good idea.
A good combination of what Fergus originally proposed, combined with the more of an expedient solution. So, well, what's the first plan of action? Let's just get this going.
I think like it might take a real long time to try and wrangle a whole like herd of crickets and whatnot. So we'll just start like tying our ration crickets onto the tails of the skinks.
Okay.
So that they trail behind them. And then who wants to go inside the tree and try and prod it from behind?
I will.
Knowing it's probably going to be pretty dangerous. Snapping turtle tails are pretty...
Snapping turtle tails aren't as dangerous as their fronts.
That's true.
I think it's pretty brave of you to want to do that, Fergus, but I think we need your experience in keeping ourselves away from the jaw. This is Thistle's hometown, and I come from a family of lumberers. I think we would probably be best on the inside.
Shoot a look at Thrawn.
In that case, Kelsey, go ahead and go find Thistle and relay to him the plan. Fergus, you, Bart, and I, we will be on lure duty.
All right. And whose plan was it? Kelsey, it was kind of your plan, like overall, right? I'll probably have you make the roll.
Stitch the pieces together, yeah.
I think I'm just gonna have you kind of roll and then like take aid from one of the others if it comes down to it.
Does she get my +1 forward?
Yeah, she can have your +1 forward. That's fine. I don't feel the need to quibble
Go
with
forth, Padawan. Make me proud.
And what's the relevant stat for this roll?
that. I think it is. You're gonna roll focus.
Okay.
Are you injured by chance?
No.
No. Okay. Yeah. So just roll focus +1.
5.
That's with the +1?
Oh yeah.
If you want to just spend all your warden pool, I don't see that might bump it up to 7, right? I mean, since you're all helping.
Not. Oh, okay. I thought it was only like a +1 at a time thing or whatever.
It doesn't say you can't. It says when you help out another character after they've rolled, say how you're helping and either spend 1 from the warden pool or roll with courage.
I give +2 instead of +1, so I can get you up to a 7.
That's perfect. Yeah, so just spend a warden pool then, Thrawn, since you're kind of leading the thing. That makes sense to me.
Okay.
Cool. Well, so and on a 7-9, it's going to cost you. The MC will offer you a worse outcome or a hard choice. It's going to be kind of a worse outcome and a hard choice. Kelsey, I think one of your fellow guard mice gets injured during this process, during this extraction. You tell me who gets injured, and I'll have them tell me how.
I think it's Fergus.
Okay. Fergus, how'd you get injured?
I put him in front, so like that's
Yeah.
the dramatically appropriate thing.
Right. Yeah. You convince him to be out there, then he gets. Yeah.
So I think this is the skinks basically stopped at an inopportune moment.
As you guys feared might happen. Yeah.
And I basically start kind of, prodding the skink to move, and it's kind of stubborn. Basically, I roll off. Ooh, I like this. Okay, so basically, at this point, the snapping turtle's getting really close, and as it goes to snap, I take a roll off the skink, and the skink drops its tail. Do skinks do that?
Sure.
So the skink drops its tail, which wiggles a lot, and
the tail will come off.
Yeah, and the snapping turtle goes after that because it wiggles just like crazy. But whenever I took the tumble off of the skink, did something to my shoulder and back.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So the turtle didn't actually get you. It's just that you kind of took a hard fall.
Yeah.
Awesome. Otherwise, though, Kelsey, just kind of tell me, just like give me like the whole scene here, like of getting the turtle out.
Thistle and we take a skink up the inside, but it gets tired, and we have to scale down ourselves, which is really dangerous, and because we have to do it very quickly. And so there's definitely bouncing off of different things along the way down. And we get some moss together, we start the little fire, and turtle starts wiggling and things like that, and then it gets interested in the crickets and things like that, but it's still stuck. I just sigh and take the axe. I just nail up the entrance, make just a little chip of it come off, and then the turtle goes zipping out, and I end up like on my noggin, basically.
Okay. And Thrawn, you're kind of leading from the outside. What did it look like on the outside?
So we're like watching as we're like leaning over the front of our skinks, like pressing on that spot that's making them not move.
Mm-hmm.
And I think like to excite their nervous energy out, like they just have to, their tails just start like vibrating, and that's moving the crickets.
Mm.
So the crickets look like they're alive, and we start to see like smoke come up from behind the turtle, and its little legs are pistoning in the air, and then we're just like waiting, and we're like, this isn't gonna freaking work, and then we hear like a crack, and the turtle just goes, and its legs catch hold, and we let go, and our skink's tails just, and then they take off running forward.
Nice.
And it's after us.
Pack up the camp and move the harvest into Elmoss. At this point, it's probably like it's fairly late. As you guys are like going in, Fergus, you are kind of the last one in, like after everyone's kind of gone inside.
I kind of made an impromptu sling to kind of put my arm in, and
You see a pair of you see these eyes that are like glittering in the darkness, right? They're catching the light, just watching this procession of mice going into Elmoss.